here. It's just past 6 o'clock here on Channel 6 here. We're going to continue. We are expecting a presser at the Statewide Operations Center in Narnia for 6:30. We'll try to cover that live if the governor speaks out. There is a state of an emergency for the wind damage from this cold cold spell in the capital region. We're going to take a few moments to go back to our guest, Josh Brickdoux, who is a constructionist expert here, who has witnessed many catastrophes, including our state house, which we have not had since 2015, from the blizzard of 2015, of which we're getting towards the 8th anniversary. We said 7th earlier, but it's been 8 years, 8 long years without a state house. Josh, we just talked about that. We had the intentional damage in 2018, the airborne in 2019, and then in March in 2021, the partial collapse. We've talked about this for a while here. Things have come in threes, but you talked about in our last piece about the building being the facade going down. Is there any improvements to the building after the last two instances where it was Mother Nature, not done by like any terroristic styled or targeted attack or whatever? Well, it's a good question, Nina. With these buildings, particularly with the State House, they were rebuilding from their other building, their other State House, the original State House, and that building was not built for. The building itself was not. They gutted the State House for the purpose of making it environmentally climate change friendly for these kind of freak storms. So in this situation, you see. But you should see levels of the building, but you don't. But that's where I think the construction, I mean, just another thing too is we're seeing the pictures on the screen with the collapse. That's a facade. They can recover that. The Army Corps of Engineers are pretty good at recovering the historical elements, which is, I think, what a lot of people, I would say a vast majority, maybe a few of them wouldn't like it, but yeah. Okay, so let's go back to Studio O right now and again explain to us the recent history of buildings in Minibrick State and why the rules had changed and why it costs more to collect the bricks than the actual bricks themselves that we're looking at. Yeah, so the first one we're looking at right now is a traditional build. What Lego calls these things are wall bricks, wall pieces. They are were the base construction for a lot of the exterior. This is not considered safe because any damage to these buildings, it will just break up. They're good for portable buildings, but not for permanent structures of dwelling or what have you. Going down, this is what the state had seen, the more resilient buildings, and it also adds weight and strength to the buildings. Those are the one you see, the brick you see in front of our other structure is a 2x2 brick, 2 studs by 2 studs or more. That is, the studs are those knobs, and they are expensive. They go about 25 cents to 50 cents to the dollar. It costs more for the builders to put it in place. Moving towards your right is how the bricks are put together. Typically around the foundation, you lock them in. This brick that you see on the top is pushed out a little bit to show you how they're interlocked. The one on the right to that build is particularly for the more cost conscious customers. These buildings are still pretty resilient too. This is kind of how the Minibrick State House was built, but you have to be careful with this because as we're looking at the pictures of the State Houses again, you can see there's a lot of window pieces, and those window pieces can the frames, if it's not interlocked properly, it can cause more problems. The other thing too is you can see with the way it pancaked with the front down. Another concern that you would have is you don't want an entire side to fall down. You probably want it to fall down in pieces. This is built very too solid. But coming back to this setup, this is what Northwest Copenhagen looks like with a lot of these, older, reconverted townhomes. And you can see how there's a 1x4 brick connected to another 1x4 brick, and they overlap each other. And these are pretty solid. Unlike the wall pieces in the left there, they're not that tall and they can interlock. The other thing too that we use in the example, with going back to the 1x2 wall pieces that we use in this example, it was also covered by a plate, which is a third of a brick. We wouldn't recommend using plates for primary foundations for like roofs or layering the second floor. They're really not. They're very fragile. They're fine for homes. Okay. So with all this in mind here, in terms of the building here, just what would the impact on our tax dollars? What does it mean for for our life in terms of insurance? Well, I'm not an insurance expert, but I think the state there will be probably a jack in the insurance for sure, but it's not like it would be any different in other risky areas. It's just unfortunately with our climate going one way or the other, it's just hard. It's hard to weatherproof. Okay, thank you, Josh Brickell, your construction expert.